Imagine you're a CEO. You have a blank check, the world's best engineers, and a vision to build the ultimate car. You spend 10 years, hire Formula One legends, and literally build a factory from the ground up just for this one machine. Then, you release it, and the world hates it. Or worse, the world loves it, but every time one rolls off the assembly line, your company loses $300,000. Building a supercar is usually a flex. It's supposed to show the world that you're the best. But sometimes, the halo car becomes a hell car. We're talking about projects that didn't just lose a few million. They burned through billions, triggered massive lawsuits, and in some cases, literally destroyed the companies that built them. Today, we're looking at the billion-dollar cars that completely failed. And stick around for the middle of the video, because there's one car on this list that was so bad, the manufacturer had to sue their own customers just to keep the lights on.
In the early 2000s, Lexus had a bit of a grandpa problem. Their cars were reliable, quiet, and, well, boring. Toyota's boss, Akio Toyoda, wanted a halo car that would change the brand's DNA forever. The goal? A supercar with a V10 engine that sounded like a Formula One car and handled better than a Ferrari. This is where it gets crazy. The LFA was in development for 10 years. They spent hundreds of millions developing an all-aluminum chassis. It was perfect. They were almost ready to launch. But then, the engineers realized aluminum was too heavy. So what did they do? Did they just tweak it? Nope. They scrapped the entire project and started over from scratch using carbon fiber. But here's the kicker. Toyota didn't have a carbon fiber supplier that met their standards. So they built their own loom, a massive 3D circular weaving machine just to make the carbon fiber parts for this one car. That's like building a whole bakery just to make one specific type of croissant. By the time the LFA finally launched in 2010, it was old news. It cost $375,000, which was more than a Ferrari 599 or a Lamborghini Aventador. People looked at the Lexus badge and then at the price tag and said, no thanks. Lexus only built 500 of them. Even with that nearly $400K price tag, experts estimate that Toyota lost about $375,000 on every single car they sold. When you add up the decade of R&D, the custom-built factory, and the specialized machinery, the LFA project is rumored to have cost Toyota over $1 billion. It's now considered one of the greatest cars ever made, but as a business move, it was a disaster.
If the LFA was a slow burn, the Jaguar XJ220 was a backstab. In 1988, Jaguar showed off a concept car that stopped the world. It was called the XJ220 because it was promised to hit 220 miles per hour. It had a massive V12 engine and a high-tech all-wheel drive system. Rich collectors went feral. They started throwing 50,000-pound deposits at Jaguar just to get on the list. Jaguar walked away with 1,500 deposits in a matter of days. But then, things went south. When the production car finally showed up 4 years later, it wasn't the car people ordered. The V12 was gone, replaced by a twin-turbo V6. The all-wheel drive was gone, replaced by rear-wheel drive. And the price? It had jumped from $360K to nearly $470K. Imagine ordering a Wagyu steak and being served a very expensive turkey burger. That's how the buyers felt. To make matters worse, a global recession hit right as the car launched. Buyers tried to get their deposits back, saying, "This isn't the car you promised us." Jaguar's response? They sued their own customers to force them to take delivery of the cars. It was a PR nightmare. They ended up only building 281 cars, and many sat in warehouses for years, unsold and unloved. Jaguar spent tens of millions on development, but the real cost was the brand's reputation. They burned their most loyal, wealthy clients. It took Jaguar decades to recover their cool factor.
Before Volkswagen bought Bugatti and gave us the Veyron, there was Romano Artioli. He was an Italian businessman who had a dream to bring the dead Bugatti brand back to life. He didn't just want to build a car, he wanted to build a monument. He built a factory in Italy that was so luxurious it had Carrara marble floors and an on-site restaurant for the employees. It was the most advanced car factory in the world. The car itself, the EB110, was a beast. Quad-turbo V12, four-wheel drive, and the first carbon fiber chassis in a production car. Even Michael Schumacher bought one. Artioli was a visionary, but he was also a terrible accountant. He overspent on everything. He bought Lotus for $50 million. He started developing a luxury sedan, the EB112, before the EB110 was even profitable. Then, the early 90s recession hit. The market for $500,000 supercars evaporated overnight. In 1995, just 4 years after the first car launched, Bugatti went bankrupt. They owed nearly $200 million, over $400 million in today's money. The legendary Blue Factory was abandoned, and for years, unfinished EB110s were just sitting on the assembly line like a ghost town. Artioli lost everything. The brand was dead until VW picked up the pieces for a bargain price a few years later. You might not have heard of Vector, but in the 90s, they were supposed to be America's Lamborghini. The Vector M12 was their big shot at the mainstream. It looked like a spaceship and used a V12 engine from the Lamborghini Diablo. The M12 was a mess. Because the company was broke, the build quality was, let's say, questionable. It was essentially a Lamborghini engine shoved into a fiberglass body that didn't quite fit. One famous car magazine, Auto Week, called it the worst car they had ever tested. It was slow, it overheated, and it was uglier than the Lambo it was trying to beat. The company was so broke that they couldn't even pay Lamborghini for the engines. Lamborghini, who was owned by the same parent company at the time, eventually stopped sending engines and demanded their money. Vector couldn't pay, so they went under. Only 17 cars were ever produced. The R&D costs were massive, but with only 17 sales, the loss per car was astronomical. It's one of the biggest flops in American automotive history. When Mercedes and McLaren, two of the biggest names in Formula One, decided to build a road car together, the world expected the greatest car ever made. It was the SLR. The problem was that Mercedes and McLaren couldn't agree on what the car should be. McLaren and their legendary designer, Gordon Murray, wanted a light, mid-engine supercar. Mercedes wanted a front-engined, comfortable luxury cruiser. They ended up with a compromise that pleased nobody. It was too heavy to be a supercar and too stiff and loud to be a luxury cruiser. It had a weird 5-speed automatic transmission when every competitor had high-tech flappy paddles. Mercedes wanted to sell 3,500 of them. They struggled to hit 2,000. While it didn't bankrupt Mercedes, the partnership between Mercedes and McLaren was so strained by this project that it eventually led to their divorce. Mercedes went back to building their own cars, the SLS AMG, and McLaren started their own car company, McLaren Automotive. The SLR was a multi-million-dollar clash of the titans that ended in a stalemate. So, why do these massive companies keep throwing billions at cars that they know might fail? Because in the world of supercars, it's not about the money, it's about the brand. Toyota lost $1 billion on the LFA, but they gained the respect of the entire world. Lexus is no longer just a grandpa brand. Jaguar lost their reputation with the XJ220, and they're still trying to get it back today. These cars are more than just metal and rubber. They're high-stakes gambles. Sometimes you win a trophy, and sometimes you lose your entire company. Which of these do you think was the biggest fail? Was it the Jaguar betrayal or the Bugatti bankruptcy? Let me know in the comments. And if you want to see more stories about the dark side of the car industry, hit that subscribe button. We've got a video coming up next on the secret prototypes that were too dangerous to ever hit the road. You don't want to miss it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.